Marvel Rivals, just like any hero shooter that you might know, revolves around picking the right heroes at the right time, which often includes counter swapping just to stop an enemy from dominating. But for most people, knowing what to choose to counter each hero might be pretty difficult. So as a one-for-all player, here are some of my favorite counter picks and strategies for every hero in Marvel Rivals. Let us start off the video with someone who's kind of hard to counter, but let's give it a try anyways. Heroes with AoE, ults, or abilities can counter Adam's Revive ultimate pretty well, since anyone revived comes back with a fraction of their health. Because of this, Winter Soldier directly counters with resets off Adam Warlock's ultimate. And if you time it right, you can even wipe the full revive with any big AoE damage ultimates like Magneto's Meatballs. And this one you can even do instantly, because the ball deals 100 damage off rip, but any charge, which is exactly the amount of health that you need to deal to kill anyone who was just revived by Adam Warlock. As for Black Panther, a specific counter pick that would help with Black Panther would be something like Magneto or even Hulk. The shields will not only stop the mark from actually being procced by Black Panther as he dashes through, but it also denies Black Panther from hitting your teammates with new ones, meaning that if you time your shields well, if Black Panther dashes in, then he doesn't get to activate his passive, meaning he doesn't get his dash back, meaning he becomes the equivalent of a kitten stuck into a tree, a free kill. Another good counter would be Winter Soldier, thanks to his hook and stun and high damage potential and combo potential as well. If that isn't your favorite choice, a very good choice could be someone like Iron Man, since Black Panther struggles with dealing significant damage against any flying targets. Black Widow instantly crumbles from any close mid to close range pressure. Any flanker should really do the job, but if you don't want to put as much effort in and avoid risking yourself getting caught up as you rotate up, then you could either consider a diving vanguard like Venom, or just picking Hawkeye and spamming arrows at her from behind a corner until she dies. Other options could be Iron Fist and just chase her until she rage quits. Moving on, we have Captain America. This guy has a lot of flaws and is generally speaking countered by you playing the game. But if he somehow does end up posing a problem, playing any hero with a little bit of self-peel, survivability, and movement ability, like I don't know, Hala, or really just about anyone on the roster, then you will be able to get a leg up on him. As long as you can keep some distance from Cap, he's going to be easy to deal with. Now, Cloak and Dagger is pretty solid, but that doesn't mean that there aren't ways that you can deal with them. A lot of players struggle with securing kills due to their fast healing nature of their ultimate, but the ultimate has a few flaws that can be exploited. First, the ultimate generally forces their team into one spot. Secondly, it doesn't overheal. This means that if you can deal a one-shot's worth of damage, then you can secure kills on fish that are essentially stuck in a barrel. Some heroes that can do this type of damage would be Hawkeye, Iron Man with his ultimate, Magneto and his ultimate. I think you get what I'm going for. But what about Doctor Strange, who is absolutely massively strong in almost every single way? Most of Doctor Strange's kit revolves around the shield, and as soon as his shield is down, he is a big target and kind of useless. If your team is struggling with Doctor Strange, breaking his shield is a good first step to keeping him down. Look into heroes that deal a lot of sustained damage over range, examples being Iron Man, Punisher, Hawkeye, Hala, or Winter Soldier. When it comes to his ultimate, most heroes can actually stop it if they stun him during the initial animation, but any support with a defensive ultimate, such as a Mantis or a Luna, will help your team sustain through the long stun and massive amounts of damage. If you hide and don't get hit when the ultimate does come out, then Cloak and Dagger can easily keep your team safe by using their banish ability as well, and your teammates can't mess it up because they're standing still. Now, Groot is going to be really annoying to deal with, but that doesn't mean that you also can counter pick him. Most of Groot's strength really comes from his walls, both trapping enemies behind him and stopping you from moving forward, while also passively dealing damage to nearby enemies. If you are in the front line, you want to keep an eye on this animation. If it pops, odds are you have a wall behind you. Playing a hero with some type of mobility will let you escape over the wall and get you back to your team safely. If you're playing in the middle to backline, you can also pick a hero with good damage here, such as Punisher or Iron Man, who can quickly destroy the wall if any teammate does get caught. Groot also doesn't really have that much range, so if you're playing heroes that can keep somewhat of a distance, he kind of falls apart. But now moving on, a lot of you guys want to know how to beat Hawkeye. I know I did. So hear me out here. If the enemy team is playing Hawkeye, then usually you need a Hawk too. Another good choice would be some type of coordinated dive, but obviously that doesn't go without a big risk of getting caught. If there's one hero I'd recommend picking to deal with Hawkeye, it would be someone like Psylocke. Just track him down, use your invisibility to get close, and then pull off the one-shot combo, which we covered in a previous video, to melt him without giving him much of a chance to fight back. You also want to avoid sustained fights against a Hawkeye, so if you could stay out of sight until you delete him, then that would be ideal. That being said, putting a diver damage dealer and a dive tank such as Venom on Hawkeye duty will normally stop him from getting to play the game in the first place. Hala, however, is pretty strong and versatile to boot. In most cases, sadly, she is just too strong to have a direct counter. Playing on yourself or playing over meta heroes might help you mitigate her, but there isn't really that one pick that will shut her down on their own. That being said, for her ultimates, there are a few things you can do. For example, Doctor Strange can fly into her face with his shield up, blocking any outgoing shots, which lets your team deal enough damage to take her out of the ultimate. In general, you just play behind shields or play behind cover, and that's really all you can do. Moving on, we have the Hulk. This guy struggles a lot with tank busting damage dealers such as Winter Soldier or the Punisher or Hawkeye. He's a big meaty target who wants to dive in and harass, and if he makes a misplay or he overstays, then he can die very fast. In addition to being weak to tank busters, Hulk also struggles against any type of stunts. If you or your teammates play heroes with a lot of stunts, like Winter Soldier or even a Penny, who can throw a new stun out every few seconds, then you can shut down Hulk as soon as his shield is down. And Iron Fist, believe it or not, also has a few pretty decent counter picks. Many people think that flyers counter him, but this guy can stick onto them like flies onto shit. Some hero picks that do counter Iron Fist are going to be close range duelists with a high amount of close range damage, such as Punisher, or duelists with a high amount of crowd control like Winter Soldier. Any hero that has a high amount of mobility can also escape from Iron Fist, as he only can close the gap with his kick once. Some heroes with that much mobility would be Rocket Raccoon or Psylocke or Spider-Man or Venom, or I guess even Scarlet Witch. Moving on with the other Iron Man, there is Iron Man. Iron Man is a natural flyer, which means he has a lot of counters that basically stop him from staying up into the air. Hit scan heroes or high accuracy heroes that deal a huge burst of damage over longer ranges are great counters to keep him grounded. Some good picks that will help ground Iron Man would be Hala, Hawkeye, Punisher, or if you're a support, you could even easily bully him with Luna Snow. Even if you don't kill an Iron Man, if you just keep him out of the sky, his effective damage and his participation in the match gets cut down to near zero. After that, we have Jeff. Generally speaking, Jeff gets outperformed by most of our strategists in the game, but there is one thing that most players still struggle with, and that's his ultimate. Generally speaking, if his ultimate is a problem, any hero with high mobility can dodge it, and anyone who can place barriers will stop shielded teammates and themselves from getting swallowed. As for counter picks, one perfect pick could be Hulk, who instantly can place barriers on himself and nearby teammates as soon as the ultimate lands, or Neymar, who can use his shift and then ult beneath him to instantly one-shot Jeff as soon as he enters the Finn state. And then there's Loki. Other than his powerful ultimate, most of Loki's power comes from having his clones up, since every new clone effectively adds another Loki's worth of heals and damage, in addition to an additional rune once he activates it. Focusing these runes to shut him down makes the most sense. Since your best bet of countering Loki is dealing with the clones, your best bet will be picking heroes with a good amount of damage, ideally with a larger magazine size to take them all out at once. A good direct counter could even be someone like Moon Knight, who not only deals a ton of damage and can explode any clones, but the clones turn into free onks, which lets you deal even more damage without even trying. Another support hero you might want to be able to counter could be Luna Snow. Now, while Luna Snow is a pretty strong hero at the moment on account of her strong heals and her ultimate practically turning her team invincible for the next few seconds, that doesn't mean it cannot be countered. Any heroes with a high burst of damage, like Iron Man or Magneto with their ultimates, that can deal over 300 damage in one shot, can kill one or many enemies inside of Luna's ult, and if these abilities or any other abilities hit for over 525 damage, then it will also one-shot the Luna and obviously cancel her ult. Keep in mind that while she does heal fast, this does not mean that she is unkillable, and honestly, if she is alone, Luna Snow can die from focused teamfire through her ultimate as well. When it comes to magic, however, picking a immediate counter will be a bit awkward due to her vast amount of movement or dodging abilities, but this doesn't mean it's impossible. Magic, like any of her melee heroes, is a dive hero and falls apart with team focus and if she cannot reach her enemy. She really only has one realistic ability that she can close the gap with, and once it is on cooldown or expired, if you keep kiting, she won't be able to deal any meaningful damage. So your best bet will be playing heroes with a lot of stun abilities on a very short cooldown, like Penny Parker, even though she might not be the best duelist. Good close range damage heroes like Punisher, or heroes with very high mobility to kite her out and stay alive, like for example Rocket Raccoon. Moving on, let's talk about Magneto. While Magneto does rely on enabling his teammates or shutting down enemy plays, that doesn't mean that there aren't picks that can help you deal with him. First and foremost, if you're in a situation with 2 solo tanks on each team, having a Doctor Strange on your team will instantly turn fights in your favor from the stronger ultimate, and just overall stronger kit and better frontline pressure that Strange provides. Depending on your lobbies, if Magneto is a problem, then you could also pick something like a Wolverine, who could be shredding him up from behind, assuming the Magneto isn't getting enough peel. As for Magneto's ultimate, one of the best counters will also be Doctor Strange, or another Magneto, I guess, as he can fly up into the sky and block Magneto from hitting any meaningful meatballs with his shield. And that is pretty straightforward and all, but then we have Mantis. Mantis is a pretty strong all-arounder with great heals, a power-up ability, and a very strong self-peel through her sleep. Her ultimate is also nothing to scoff at. Since she is a healer with a strong defensive ability, I will also recommend heroes with large damage bursts like Iron Man or Magneto here. Heroes like Hawkeye will also one-shot squishies right through these defensive healing ultimates. And better yet, since Mantis doesn't receive any bonus shields during her ultimate, that makes Mantis a very easy target to one-shot by most one-shot heroes in the roster. Moving on, after that we of course have Moon Knight. This guy dishes out a ton of damage with an ultimate that literally cannot be avoided or sustained even with defensive ults such as Luna or Mantis. Other than breaking any onks, you'll usually get a leg up against Moon Knight by playing flyers such as Iron Man or heroes with a high amount of movement abilities to get away from his unk or keep himself difficult to hit, such as, I don't know, Spider-Man or Rocket Raccoon. After Moon Knight, let's talk about Neymar. This guy can dish out a decent amount of damage with his spears and keep a lot of control on the map thanks to his squid turrets. Other than the turrets, his largest contribution to any teamfight is going to be the Whale ultimate, which either stuns the entire enemy team at worst or instantly kills the ones in the middle at best. The Whale won't hit any targets that are inside of shields, and the damage extends from the middle of the ultimate and outwards, which means that if a Magneto or a Doctor Strange shields the middle circle, as long as they themselves are standing outside of the middle, then they or anyone behind them won't be hit. Other counters to Neymar can be high mobility heroes or even heroes like Loki or Cloak and Dagger that temporarily provide you and your teammates with invincibility. Penny Parker, however, is in a bit of a strange situation. If you'd ask anyone who's diamond or above, they would agree she doesn't have too much of an impact as long as you keep breaking the spider nest. Without it, she doesn't have that much of a use. Other than blowing her up with damage, here are a few suggestions to counter her. Thanks to her lack of shield, Winter Soldier can hook her into your team so they can blow her up. She can't really do much against flying heroes, such as Iron Man who can fly above and destroy the nest and just poke her out. And fun fact, due to what I can only assume is spaghetti code, Groot can place his wall on top of the spider nest to instantly break it as well. Moving on, we have Psylocke. Now, Psylocke is by far one of the best damage dealers right now, thanks to her stealth ability and incredibly high damage output, but that doesn't mean that we cannot counter her. While the general part of her kit just outputs a ton of damage, where the only real counter is paying attention and peeling each other, her ultimate, which a lot of people still struggle with, can be countered in numerous ways. Since the ultimate hits enemies one at a time in order, this means that by grouping, all of your teammates will only get hit once or twice each, which generally won't be enough for her to land any kills. Shielding and healing each other will minimize the risk of anyone dying, but there are a few specific heroes that really shine in sustaining through this ultimate. The few that comes to mind would be heroes like Hulk, who can bubble his whole team, Luna or Mantis, who can pop a defensive ultimate and survive the whole ultimate, or Cloak and Dagger, whose normal heals, the ultimate, and cloak invincibility can keep the team safe through it the entire time. Rocket Raccoon, on the other hand, can be a bit of an elusive bugger. The guy not only has 2 dashes, but he can run along walls that might make him pretty hard to catch. Generally speaking, your best bet for countering Raccoon will be by picking stronger supports and out-sustaining your team. But things like his team up with Punisher or even Winter Soldier will make it difficult to survive some of these fights. He also fires healing balls all around the point that bounce around while dishing out passive healing to nearby teammates. A great all-around counter for Rocket could be a hero like Magneto. Magneto's shield will eat incoming projectiles, including Rocket's heals, which significantly cuts into his outgoing healing. Both Magneto's shield and protective barrier will also protect your team if you need to zone away from the power-up or his ultimate, as well, I guess, Magneto's ultimate. Flanking heroes such as Psylocke will also help you take down the BRB, which is throwing out cookies and reviving any enemies that might end up getting picked. Next up, we have Scarlet Witch. As a whole, her kit doesn't do too much damage, and in most duels, you would simply beat her by hitting your shots. But the issue for many is the ultimate. Countering Scarlet Witch's ultimate is also easy. Just shoot her when she gets within your line of sight, or dodge out of the way if you can't kill her. Her ultimate can also be blocked by shields, and it will instantly get interrupted if she is hit by any stunts across any range, I guess. Some example of heroes with great reactive stunts could be Penny Parker or the Hulk, who can snipe and stun her from a very far range. So there are a lot of counters for Scarlet Witch, and she's not really in a good position right now. But what about Spider-Man? Spider-Man finds his strength in diving strategies, doing a full combo and then getting out, but that requires him to close the gap, and while he is swinging around or setting up his dive, he is susceptible to heavy poke damage from Hala or Punisher's assault rifle, and once he does close the gap, he can easily be one-shot by something like Punisher's shotgun. In addition to heavy melee damage, Spider-Man also struggles from stuns in addition to heavy close-range damage, and won't be able to do much against any defensive barriers that defend his targets. Moving on, we have Squirrel Girl, and she can deal devastating damage, but only if the conditions are right. She benefits the most from enemies that are standing still or are easy to hit due to her projectile damage, or if the enemy team simply groups up thanks to her explosive damage. Staying a bit more split will help in general, but if you're looking for a more specific pick, then heroes like Iron Man, who keeps flying, can be difficult to hit and line up shots against and deal with for Squirrel Girl. As long as you can stay in the air without a predictable arc, then she will struggle with hitting you. Now, dealing with Star-Lord will be a bit different. Generally speaking, this guy could either be part start of a dive, dealing additional damage, or he's just going to be spamming whatever he can to build his ultimate. Star-Lord's ultimate is very strong, but there are a few ways you can mitigate it. First, by expecting the ultimate, you can potentially position yourself somewhere safer to get behind cover once it pops. And two, certain heroes can mitigate his damage if not completely shut it down. Some examples would be heroes with defensive ultimates like Mantis, Luna, or Cloak and Dagger, or even heroes like Magneto, who will eat all of the incoming damage with his ultimate, and better yet, maybe even throw it right back at him. Enemies with solid damage over most ranges, like Hala, Punisher, or Hawkeye, can also deal with him, assuming they can stay safe for long enough to dish out damage against him and then to shoot him out of the sky. After Star-Lord comes Storm. While most of her kit kind of enables her team, that doesn't mean you still can't snipe her out of the air with hit-skin heroes such as Punisher or Hala. Hell, even Hawkeye can deal with her. But most players have issues with her ultimate. But as with anything, that too has some counters. First off, the ultimate only deals about 150 damage per second, which can be offset by defensive ultimates. It can also be blocked by shields or barriers from Hulk or Magneto. When the ultimate spawns, you are warned of where she will appear ahead of time, after which Storm spawns with only 600 health. So if you can burn 600 health fast enough, then she can't really do much. You could take this opportunity to counter ult with something like Iron Man to immediately take her out once she spawns. But the Punisher, as opposed to Storm, is all in all pretty stationary. While he does serve as a counter for a lot of the heroes in this video, that doesn't mean that he also isn't counterable and doesn't have his own weaknesses. The key is in him being stationary. If two or more heroes focus him at once, for example in a dive, things fall apart instantly. Over longer ranges, the Punisher also struggles with spam heroes who keep putting pressure on him but never really commit to one-on-one, such as Hawkeye or even Iron Man if you really play him right. Another great pick against him would be Psylocke, who could do a full damage combo on him before he could even react, thanks to his big chunky hitbox. And then we have 4. 4 is a damage and displacement focused off tank, so countering him will be abusing the fact that he doesn't have a shield. 4 lacks answers to heroes with good poke across longer ranges, and he gets absolutely melted by tank busters such as Punisher with his shotgun if 4 does manage to get up a little bit too close. As for his ultimate, 4's ultimate works a little bit like Neymar's in the sense that once he slams, the ultimate will deal damage outwards from the middle, blocking the middle with any shield or barrier, which you get by picking Magneto, Doctor Strange, or Hulk, will protect anyone behind it, or stopping 4 from dealing insane damage. Another tank without shields is of course Venom. He is the diver's wet dream with a great engage through his web swing and his dash, but most importantly because he is a nearly invincible tank thanks to his shield ability, as well as his ultimate. Generally speaking, keeping an eye on Venom's health bar is key. If you are playing a hero with a stun, you could actually wait for him to get low health, and if you stun him before he manages to activate his shield ability, and then you just need to burn him before the stun runs out, and then he's just gonna die before he even manages to double up his health. Venom also struggles against certain heroes, specifically tank busters like Punisher and his shotgun, and it doesn't matter how much health Venom has topped up with, because getting in the face of a Punisher with a shotgun will instantly melt him. You could also pick a hero like Wolverine, since he deals more damage the more health an enemy currently has, which is perfect for chunky targets like Venom. Moving on, we have Winter Soldier. This guy deals a ton of damage and can create a ton of opportunities for the team, and since he builds a lot of bonus health and has a pretty strong ultimate, he's usually pretty hard to deal with. I found that the best way to deal with this guy is by picking heroes with strong shutdown abilities and crowd control like stuns, or defensive abilities to stop him from comboing any teammate that gets hooked or caught. Magneto's projective barrier is usually the perfect choice for this, and in addition to that, while it's not perfect, it will help shut him down whenever he's making big plays. It's worth noting that any shield or barrier will stop Winter Soldier's ultimate from dealing damage and applying the debuff to any teammates, so if Winter Soldier wastes his ultimate on a shield, then the ultimate won't actually apply or really do anything. And finally, we have Wolverine. Wolverine is all about displacing enemies, ideally tanks, and dealing a ton of damage to these tanks to shred them to bits. His weakness will be any of our duelists, and that's because the less health a duelist has, the less damage Wolverine will deal to them. Ideally, you want a duelist with good close range damage like Punisher, and or a duelist with good mobility, maybe even a stun that you can kite back from him with, like Hala. If you're playing something like an Iron Man, you can kind of just stay in the air and just shoot down at him, assuming he doesn't snipe you with his leap. Having a Magneto or Hulk in your team can be key here as well, since if Wolverine is planning to yoink anyone on your team into his own team, then you can at least bubble your teammate and save them from a certain death. And wow, those were all the counters. If I missed any, or if there's anything you guys would like to add, let me know in the comments. I will try to keep this video updated and post more updated ones as the game does go on. We have season 1 just around the corner, so subscribe for that. If you guys want to get better at Marvel Rivals, check out the video on the screen. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time.